At the beginning of last century, the city of Bilbao was already at the vanguard of Spanish industry. The iron and steel concern Altos Hornos de Vizcaya had just been created as the result of an ambitious merger. The large industrial network growing on both shores of the Nervión River required electrical power. In 1901, under the sponsorship of the Banco de Vizcaya, mining engineer Juan de Urrutia founds the Sociedad Hidroeléctrica Ibérica, with its main activity in the Ebro River basin. It was a time period full of promises and open to new initiatives. In the beginning of the 1920s, Hidroeléctrica Ibérica started the Central Pyrenees system, thereby satisfying the growing demand for electricity. Civil engineer José Orbeguezo's goal was to obtain electrical power at the basin of the Duero River. In the region of Zamora, certain customs remained intact, such as the images of this wedding captured on camera in 1927. In May 1929, preliminary work began at the Ricobayo Dam on the Esla River, the main tributary of the Duero River. A settlement for workers was built to lodge the working men who weren't from nearby villages. Ricobayo will become the first in a series of dams whose objective was the exploitation of the Duero River. The project, conceived by Orbegozo, implied an energy supply 5 times larger than the demand that existed at that time in Spain. These hydroelectric undertakings take place in environments rich in historical monuments, typical locations and memories from the past. Alongside the reservoirs, in harmony with the various natural environments, workers' settlements sprung up. All these residential settlements had the necessary social services to ensure a harmonious development of the community. The Castro settlement was designed according to the region's architecture, and the regional customs and folklore have been preserved.
The people of Alcántara and the entire region were given a social security number for the first time ever. Indeed, life here was very pleasant. The children enjoyed themselves because there were about 50 families of similar age with children. It was as if they had 50 fathers and mothers.
When some of us women started working in these facilities,
this square was used for celebrations.
our male workmates were sort of puzzled.
A fireworks took place.
And far from what many people expected, maybe people thought there might be some rejection.
Because many people from Valencia lived here.
On the contrary, they treated us really affectionately.
We accomplished something in terms of public festivals.
The festivities in the settlement were greater than those in the village.
We'd invite the whole village.
At Christmas time, the gifts we received from Iberdrola were the best, much better than our own.
People call it their house. That means they're really part of the company.
When they were kids and they'd ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, a football player or a bullfighter? To work for the company. When someone asked them what they wanted to be, they'd say it was like having a degree in higher education. We all want to work for Hidroelectrica.
Everybody gets involved because they feel it's part of them.
Like my dad.
And my youngest daughter, a veterinarian, used to say, I want to be a vet for Hidroelectrica. In other words, everyone wanted to work for Hidroelectrica.
A historic event was now taking place, the merger between these two large companies under the new name of Iberdrola. The animated map shows the significance of the merger between both companies in 1944 in terms of energy concentration. The spot chosen for the Aldea d'Avila Dam shows the natural power of the falls. The hydraulic laboratory studied the patterns of the water of what was to become the spillway dam. The works began. The men approached the Great Canyon as best they could. The Colossus of Aldea d'Avila was increasing in height at an incredible rate. The underground construction of the power station was also becoming deeper. Aldea d'Avila became operational in 1962. Its plant, the largest in Western Europe at that time, generated as much power as all the Iberdrola plants combined.
If the dams hadn't been built right then, it would be impossible to do any sailing now. The dams enabled navigation, which in turn enabled economic development and tourism in regions where there was none before.
On the one hand, there is what my father used to tell me, and on the other is what I saw for myself. Because just as I now live in the settlement here, I grew up in another settlement. So I guess we can say that the station, the dam, is part of my own little world.
Next to the dam is the largest colony of tawny cultures in the whole natural park. The colony has remained here and existed before the dams were built.
We always look to minimize the environmental impact.
All the nests have been preserved. We now have nests of black storks, Egyptian vultures, golden eagles and tawny vultures. Species that have become extinct in the rest of Europe, but have remained perfectly well here. Iberdrola trains its staff extensively from the very first day.
The company set up a school for professional training.
Teachers in those days had considerable influence in the education of children, and more in this case as they had the backing of all the parents. In other words, they were like parents to the children.
There are some 33,000 of us employees in the whole world, and our people are being kept updated in new technologies, in new work methods.
Last year, we devoted around 1.2 million hours to training, which represents more or less 40 hours per person.
And there are other important percentages like the 9% we devote to learning languages.
We are talking about millions of euros. Practically 98% of the staff has gone through these centres.
The Brazilians can learn English or Spanish, and Americans can learn Spanish, or we Spaniards can improve our English or Portuguese.
One of the areas that we are keen on in the house are totally safe conditions to ensure there are no accidents.
The merger between the two companies resulted in combining the best of both companies, right? One was very good in hydraulics, and the other in nuclear matters. One was very good in networks, and the other was embarking on a small international expansion. The result of combining both was to create a critical mass, which gave rise to the company we are today.
What we do is to reforest those areas of land that might have been affected by our installations. Also, for each person who works in the company, we give work to 10 people who work outside, which proves our commitment, not only to the environment, but also to the other people, our contribution in the social field.
I was totally impressed by that professional culture that is so unique, so different from others. In the company in Bilbao, for example, one had to take a competitive examination to get the job, which ends up giving rise to a special culture. One must also bear in mind that many of the people who work for the company have roots, origins and links through their parents or grandparents who worked there in the past.
I started my working life in a hydraulic power station where my father had worked for 6 years. We had that in common. We are like a big family. I consider it a mission accomplished. The bottom line is that there are many of us and many totally different businesses. From a professional point of view, my job allowed me to develop in the field of engineering.
Any personal needs you might have were met right there.
Let's say that the company treats us well.
And so we have a tendency to want to give our best to the company.
My whole life I've had a family relationship with the company. My father feels proud talking about Iberdrola. My father worked here. He was a company director here in Bilbao. Well, he was a meter reader. My brother and my sister-in-law works here. Nowadays, women are just as important as anyone else. The number of women in the company, I think if you work and obtain results, is high in the Spanish market, if not the highest. Women in all sorts of jobs, some of them executives, others department heads.
Our company has pioneered the continuous workdays throughout the year.
The shift has enabled employees to go home earlier so they can devote time to family obligations.
Which enables us to come to work more relaxed.
And that has been very beneficial for the employees and for the company as well.
Iberdrola was also a pioneer in the institution of support for maternity leave for pregnant women, something that affected me personally.
Women are entitled to go on maternity leave 15 days before giving birth.
Future mothers enjoy a series of rights that also apply to male workers who are going to be fathers.
When women return after maternity leave during the first year of their child's life, they can work shorter days without suffering a decrease in salary.
I think the level of satisfaction is very important to workers.
This is a very important element. At any given moment, people are prepared to do everything and to the best of their ability because they have a vocation of service. Our approach to organic expansion was to do things we know how to do, to go back to our origins, to produce, generate and distribute energy, while staying away from speculative operations. At the time it was important we spoke about paying dividends. We talked again about low debt. In 2001, 99% of our income was generated in Spain. We began to feel this might be a risky situation in a global market. Therefore, we went to the United Kingdom and joined Scottish Power, which is one of the large British electricity companies. We also engaged in a big expansion in the United States.
Business transformation here in Iberdrola USA was huge, and we had a lot of great results.
The focus changed from an organization that was based on cost to more of a focus on efficiency.
I really enjoy working with Iberdrola. It's a great company. It's the mindset, the safety, everything. They don't just preach it, they do it. There's a lot of help with the company. If I need something as far as anything, I mean, there's always someone there.
We're a company who are well recognised for the contribution that we make to the development of the energy sector, but we're also a company who are recognised for the commitment that we show to supporting societies around us.
No Brasil, as empresas distribuidoras que fazem parte do grupo Iberdrola possuem diversas tarifas sociais que facilitam o fornecimento.
An excellent example of this is Scottish Power's relationship with Cancer Research UK. Through a variety of initiatives such as fundraising events across the business, the introduction of a discounted energy product and the distribution of health advice across the company, Scottish Power are bringing employees together to support the UK's leading cancer charity.
E participam também de programa de eletrificação rural.
Looking towards the future, the company is undoubtedly very seriously committed towards innovation, which is one of its leading criteria.
And that is why we are devoting every year about 140 million euros to research and development and innovation, R plus D plus I.
Without innovation, we're nothing.
Resources devoted to dozens of projects in the fields of intelligent networks, marine power, etc.
Iberdrola is currently involved in tidal power projects. That is another source of energy that is in its initial stages of growth, but technical development in this field is already underway, and it might be possible to commercialize it in the near future for tidal power to become another source of renewable energy.
The company should make decisions that are in the interest of its 450,000 shareholders who have deposited their savings in it and who want dividends, strength and a future.
I became a shareholder of the company when it turned 100 years old. At the time, the company gave a gift to all its employees, 100 shares each.
The disposition of shares to the employees is a differentiating factor.
It strengthened our bonds with the company, even in the economic field.
It had the effect of making the staff feel more involved by becoming shareholders. It was a type of savings plan.
Even if I didn't work for this company, I'd be a shareholder, as many other people. Because with my pension plus my shares, well, I lead a good life with no major financial complaints.
It makes me feel sufficiently confident to...
I trust the company enough to choose to buy its shares.
To have a little investment.
Because I know the company guidelines and what its goals are and what I'm investing in.
They cover everything.
They really know what they're doing.
It is better to have your money invested in a serious company you can trust.
It is a very solid company, one of the 4 or 5 largest ones in the world in terms of capitalization.
As a shareholder, I know that we are sort of competing in the big league.
We are like a huge ocean liner sailing a steady, set course that knows exactly where it wants to go and can navigate through troubled waters because it has engines and enough power to get there. Ethics calls for sharing a series of mutual values. For us, these values are work, honesty, loyalty, and teamwork for the benefit of the company of which we are a part.
Although I've had polio since I was 8 months old, I've always wanted to sail. Sailing is what I love doing in life. 3 years ago, Iberdrola integrated us in its project by organizing a Paralympic team. This has fulfilled my dream of doing what I love, sailing. We train every day, 365 days a year. We use Iberdrola's newly renovated facilities in Valencia. We receive financial, moral, and personal support from the company, without which we would not be here. It would be impossible. Yes, we're fighting to make it to the London Paralympic Games, because in that sailing contest, only one person per country can participate.